Hey guys, so I wanted you to take a few minutes off from practice problems 5 and go back to practice problem 4. There was a few questions that came up even after the rough draft and the final draft, and I just wanted to clarify a few things. First of all, for determining natural classes, you want to use your IPA chart that's available in the back of the book. It organizes everything by the different components so that you can easily find the natural class because you just go through the chart. So if we look at question number 15b, it says voice labial consonants. We know from the bottom of our chart that voice symbols always appear on the right. So P and B is a voice symbol. T and D is the voice symbol. And then we can look at the place of articulation, which is the top row, or the manner of articulation, which is the first column. We have different information on our vowels, and then we have different symbols. So if we're looking for a voice labial consonant, we know we have to look to the symbols to the right. And then labial includes bilabial and labiodental. Any sounds made with any of the lips is a labial sound. And then we want voice labial consonants. So if it's voiced, it's got to be on the right. And then we want voiced labial consonants. So we know it's going to be B, we know it's going to be M, and we know it's going to be V. We know it's not these symbols because they don't occur in English. So if you look at the consonant chart that's across from the IPA chart, the consonant one that's just standard American English in your textbook, that'll help you organize it. We also know that W is a voice bilabial approximant. It doesn't occur in the IPA chart because W tends to be a unique case. So what we have for B is our B, M, W, and V. Those are our voiced bilabial English consonants. Now we're going to look at another phonological analysis question. So if you would go to page 141. And we're going to look at number 29. So this is Russian. I have my symbols ready to copy and paste over here. That's what these are for. But we're going to type it out over here. Number 29 is looking at Russian, which is an Indo-European language of the Slavic family. We're going to look at the two vowels and determine whether they're allophones of the same phoneme or they're allophones of different phonemes. So remember, real quick, allophones just simply mean any sounds that belong to a particular phoneme. So if it's the same phoneme, they're allophones of the same phoneme. If it's a different phoneme, they're two different allophones, and they're two different phonemes that they belong to. So if we decide that they're allophones of separate phonemes, we're going to provide that evidence. So remember, our first step in phonological analysis is to make our chart. So let's insert our table so we can organize the different instances. For the purpose of this recording, I'm just going to call them front vowel A and back vowel A, because the only differences between them is that one is front and one occurs in the back. They're both unrounded, and they're both open. We have our front and we have our back. So now we look at our different examples. A shows us that our front vowel occurs in the beginning of a word, and it's followed by a schwa. And then we look at D, and we see that our front vowel occurs after a V in the last part of the word. C tells us that our front vowel can occur between D and R. D tells us that our front vowel can occur between M and a palatalized S. That's what the little diacritic of the J means. It just means it's palatalized. We're not worried too much about diacritics in our class. We also see that our front vowel A can occur after a palatalized M and before a T. Then we look at F, and F through J conveniently go into the other side of the chart. That's not always the case. But so now we're looking at our back vowels. So we see that our back A can occur after a P, but before velarized L. That's what the little squiggly mark through the L means. It means it's velarized. Then we see that our back vowel A can occur after a D and before the same velarized L. We see that it occurs after a P, but again before a velarized L. It occurs after an R, but before a velarized L. And lastly, again, it occurs after an R and before a velarized L. So for I and J, it occurs in this situation both times. And it looks like for F and H, it occurs after the P again. So we see these situations. We can tell when we look at our blanks where the vowels go in, there's no minimal pairs. There's no same things on both sides of the chart that would tell us that they're allophones of different phonemes. So immediately we know they are allophones of the same phoneme. This means they exist in complementary distribution. Complementary distribution, remember, just says that one phoneme has multiple allophones, and that when those allophones occur in a language, there's certain rules that say when the front A occurs and when the back A occurs. But they're both allophones of the same phoneme, this front A. Free variation, which is another term that came up in phonology, just means that you could use either A in any instance in a language, and there's no rules that govern when to do it. It would never sound funny to a native speaker. For a native speaker of Russian, if you use the front vowel when you should have used the back A vowel, it's going to sound funny, but they're going to still understand the word. However, if this was a different case, if these were allophones of a different phoneme, it would change the meaning of the word. The native speaker wouldn't know what you were saying because they're completely different phonemes. It completely changes the meaning of the word. For this problem, we know that the front A and the back A are allophones of the same phoneme, and they occur in complementary distribution. So we need to decide what that rule is for when they occur in complementary distribution. So if we look at it, it's pretty straightforward on this question. We see that the front A can occur in all of these different settings. So it can be a word beginning, it can be at the end, it can be between different consonants. But we see that the back A always occurs before a velarized L. Always. So there's our rule right there. Sometimes it's a little more difficult. Sometimes we have to determine the natural classes, and we have to figure out all the natural classes that occur before the front A and after the front A. All the natural classes that occur before the back A and after the back A. And that would help us narrow down the rule. But for number 29, it's nice and straightforward, and we can see the rule very upfront. So we know that front A occurs normally, but it changes to back A in front of a velarized L. You could also write it out like this. A becomes back A when it occurs before velarized. So let me know if you have any questions as you went through number 29. Let me know if you have any further questions on organizing natural classes. You will have a problem like this on your linguistic exam coming up in a little bit. So let me know if you'd like more practice, if there's other problems I can help you with, or if you'd like to Skype and talk this out further. Here to help.